Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. As you guys know, I am a digital nerd. I've always built digital businesses, and I know some of you guys are in the professional services space. You have face-to-face interaction with customers, so I wanted to sit with a master of the craft. I wanted to sit down with somebody who bootstrapped this company for $2,000 and has now built one of the leading PR firms in the entire world with over 220 employees in over 20 countries. Multi-8-figure company, named by Financial Times one of the fastest growing companies in all of Asia. Mr. Jacob, good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to spend some time diving into your mind because many people don't really understand what it means to run a PR company. Many people think that it's a placement on Yahoo Finance. They think it's a little article on Forbes. But many people don't understand what it's like to build a professional service-based business. I don't have experience. So in this session, I really want to dive into your mind. I want to dive into what it means to persuade people, what it means to change the narrative or be able to in some way achieve the goals of your customers. So before we talk business, I want to talk about you. How does a man from India, all right, bootstrap his company, $2,000, and end up in Singapore leading one of the fastest growing PR companies on the planet? Tell me, let's take it back to the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think any of where I am today is planned. A lot of it is just circumstances, which goes to prove that don't do any planning because you're either going to get disappointed or going to get wildly surprised. In my case, I'm wildly surprised. I think the key thing is to have a motivation. So I was born in India, but I grew up in Saudi Arabia. And in 1991, during the first Gulf War, the family moved to Dubai. I was there till 95. Then I went to India to do my high school and my college. Then I came back to Dubai in 2003, worked with various publications. And in 2006, I got an opportunity to join a major startup telecom company. And I was and that was my first role ever on the corporate comm side. The issues that comes up, how to, change things within a company, how to boost up morale within a large corporation. When we started, we were just like a dozen people. And in 6 months, there were like 2,000 people working for this company. Wow. So it's basically like Noah's Ark, and you have to be the comms chief of that. And they're all coming. I said Noah's Ark because these were people coming from different mobile operators in different worlds. They spoke different languages, different cultures, different everything. So how do you synchronize all that? And then focus them on a goal. And then there's issues popping up here and there. Then I moved on to work for the government for close to 2 years as a diplomat. And then 2011, for the first time in my life, I joined a PR firm, which was at that time called Azda Burson Marsteller. And Azda was started by a gentleman called Sunil John, just 3 people in 1999. Today, it's the largest in Middle East and North Africa. It's got bought by WPP, the majority stake, but Sunil is still a shareholder. And I learned a lot from Sunil and how he grew the company. So in 2013, when my family decided to move to Singapore, I saw that there was nothing like what Azda is in this region. There was global players who were huge, and then there were small boutique shops who had a few clients and a few staff. And it was like a huge, and there's no Asian equivalent of a Burson Marsteller or an Ogilvy or an Edelman. And I looked around and I said, Singapore has created great brands like DBS or Singapore Airlines. And why can't we do this for the professional services industry? Yeah. When you're broke and don't have much, you go by your dreams. So I thought, there's no limits to how much you can dream. And people who heard me at that time thought, what is this guy on? Because we live in Singapore, there's not much he could be that high on. And I just thought, this could be a possibility. And I found a co-founder who believed in that. And we set off. I asked my wife, and she said, as long as in 6 months you are paying the house rent it's okay. If you're not paying the house rent,
You have to go to the CEO of the house.
Yeah. So
Get
if you
the
in
green
6
light.
months, if the house rent is not paid, then I get a job. Luckily, we hadn't had to go that far yet. So we started with one client who's still our client. It's a VC firm called Jungle Ventures. And we grew with them. So a lot of times, a lot of our clients were very small in 2013, 2014 when we started. And they've now become large organizations. And when they wanted to go to a new market, whether they want to launch something in Japan or they want to launch something in Estonia or do something in Saudi Arabia, we've become, that's the difference with PR from any other kind of marketing. It's very sticky, and you stick yourself to the key decision makers, the CEO, the CFO, and things, because the issues you deal with are usually the decision makers are them, especially when it comes to crisis. So when they go to these new markets, new challenges, they said, yeah, why don't you come along? And I said, okay, I'll find someone and then send them along.
Yeah.
And that has helped us grow pretty quick.
So here you are with $2,000. Now you're running a multi-8-figure year business as CEO of Red Hill. Talk to me about what is the process of maintaining customers, because you could have easily gotten this firm to be, hey, here's your PR budget, here's whatever the contract is, but you could have easily lost them 3 months later, 6 months later. A lot of people that are in the professional service-based business, they understand potentially how to acquire customers, but talk to me about the recipe of retaining customers and what is the ideology or process that you have behind that relationship and that partnership.
Important question. There's no magic bullet or a pill for it. It's a challenge that I face as well. So a lot of my early clients, even now, I maintain like really deep relationship with. We meet outside work, we talk about a lot of things. But in the last 5 years, which is half of our lifetime, we've had a lot of clients who I really don't have a personal connection with. But I think the missing link on that has been able to be that I have found people who have similar characteristics like mine. And they are able to forge a good relationship. When I look for people, and it doesn't work out all the time, but I have this term called forever people. There are 3 characteristics that you need for a good PR person. You need to have something like what would make you a good lawyer. That means you are able to put arguments well and things like that. You need to have a little bit of a business brain. I wouldn't say accountant, but you know the numbers that, okay, this is going to have this impact. This is our bottom line. This is our margins work and things like that. And then you need to have the service or the emotional connect of like a flight steward, which means, you're presentable, you're the face and things of the airline. You're not the guy flying the plane, but customers will see you, right? But at the same time, if there's turbulence or the flight goes haywire, all the safety procedures, you will take command. You will, ease people's worries, and you will...
Professional but tender.
Professional but... Yeah. So it's a combination of these factors. And I really look for these people. And it's very hard to find these people. So I take people from a lot of good universities, some people with no university background, some people with, who've gone through a lot in their lives. But there is that characteristic that they're able to nurture a relationship with the client, understand the client, and do whatever it takes to make sure that the client is okay. So as long as I find those kind of people, I think our relationship with the clients are fine. What clients look for is that they look for 2 things. One, they don't want to push, hey, how's this going? How's that going? No. Your team should be able to watch out for them.
Yes.
And tell them in advance, hey, that thing is coming up, this thing is coming up, this is what we heard. Because we are external relations. We have to gather intelligence. We have to put it there and say, okay, this is your 1 week, so 1 month, things that we hear. This is what the competitors are doing. This is what we hear, all those things. So the client is updated as, okay, these guys are. The second thing is, if things were to go wrong, let's say, investors or co-founders fight, or employees run out and they're saying nasty things. It happens in every company. They want someone who will stick with them.
Yeah.
And they will say, what we've put the ring on it, so we're going to stick by this. No issues. I think that kind of loyalty and dedication is something that makes, regardless of whether I'm personally involved or not. And I'm happy to say those kind of relationships are beyond business, because you get that sense of camaraderie, and it's a good feeling. For me, it makes me happy. So I'm very
It makes sense. Now, let me ask you, how do you train your team? Because one thing is to have the skills of being professional but soft, right? Where you can interact with people on a personal level. But how do you train your team to make sure that you kind of clone these values into them with having the peace of mind, but without having the day-to-day supervision of making sure that they are managing customers the way that you want these customers managed?
So that is the part where we can't clone enough people. It has to come from experience. So I take it a point to involve as many of the young people in my company in dealing with issues. Also, you learn a lot from mistakes. So I share with them a lot of the mistakes that I've made, especially when it comes to reading somebody wrong, what happened in this situation. So it's a lot like learning from previous case studies. So I have to do a better job of it. Right now, most of it is in my head, but now I kind of institutionalize it or code it so that more people can learn from it. It has its limits, in my lifetime, whatever is remaining. I don't think I can create 1,000 people, or, the scalability of the human inefficiency is going to affect us. But of late, we've been buying agencies. So we bought 2 agencies last year. So I look for that similar kind of founder-driven culture in those organizations, and we try to integrate it with us. The second element is also that I've hired people who are way smarter than me in running businesses and have run successful businesses. Like we just hired Manisha Sewal as our president. She's run huge organizations. So it also frees my time up to spend more time with young people and create more forever people. And sometimes our people leave us, and then we hope to get them back in a few years' time. So they've gathered
experience, go get recon in the field and poach them, poach them back.
We don't poach people. We wait for people to come to us. We only poach. We don't poach, but we try to take fresh people straight out of school or this thing. We have a set policy on how to train people, which is internships and apprenticeships. Internships you do through your college or school, and apprenticeship in your last semester or whatever, you just work with us. And then we do also send a lot of our staff across our offices. So there's a little bit of intermingling.
That's amazing to hear. Now, you mentioned something which I think is integral to maintaining customers, not just being able to have the foresight to foresee problems, because these people, these customers, they don't want to be like, hey, what's going on with this? It's the foresight, but also the human connection. Talk to me about expectation management. How do you manage expectations with your customers? You get a big check. Hey, there's this PR campaign that we want you to run. This is the narrative. How do you manage expectations versus what they think the picture looks like versus what you think the picture looks like? And how do you marry those two things together?
Yeah. So expectations are very natural. They're ambitious. And it also has like a domino effect. Let's say a marketing manager in a company tells the CEO is very focused that he wants to be on cover of this magazine or be interviewed by so-and-so and things like that. And if the marketing person is a yes man or a yes woman, yeah, definitely. And then that will come on to the agency, and then it'll, But what we try to tell them is, and this has been a bit of our secret sauce, we sit with the management and with the client and say, okay, let's forget about the PR aspect. Let's just focus on what is your business goal. Okay, if you're a fund, you want to raise $200, $300, or $1 billion. If you are a direct-to-consumer good, you want to get this much of market share in these markets, in these segments. If you are an airline, you want to get into a new market and, get a market share there. Or deal with governments in a better way and all these things. So once you know what the end goal is and you have a timeline, we say, okay, what are the things in which we can play a role to hit that targets? So here I'll just take a step back and say, so if you look at the marketing spectrum, broadly you can divide it into 3 areas. There's paid media, which is advertising, digital advertising, all those things, pay for sponsorships, things like that. There's owned media. Owned media is your own YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. You create
Your
yourself,
social platforms.
which is creating content and driving people in for yourself. I mean, through your channels. And the third element is the earned media. Earned media is where you create content with media platforms, but you don't pay for it. But it is of significant editorial value that they will run it. So as a PR firm or a comms firm, we only deal with earned and owned. We don't deal with paid. So we make it very clear that, okay, if you want to use your earned firepower, do you want to be just focusing that on your CEO getting a cover somewhere? Or do you want to have a story or a feature on how this company's products are making a difference to so many people? How this company is doing things differently that is benefiting its consumers, or it's, a better narrative for the overall business, which is sustainable, because that is what people are going to take away. If it's just a CEO interview or things like that, people are going to say, yeah, fine. Every month they're going to have another CEO interview. Nobody remembers a cover of a magazine from this thing. Nobody reads. How many people read magazines? So you have to guide customers from what is personal vanity to what is a business driven objective or a goal.
And you do that through sitting down, having clear expectations of what is the end result. Like, okay, you may want to be on the cover of this magazine because you've conjured up a false reality that that's going to lead you to your end goal.
Exactly.
But that may not necessarily be the case.
And also sometimes the particular individual's goals are not in line with the company's goals. The CEO or the CMO wants to put this on LinkedIn for their personal benefit, but it's not affecting the company. So yeah, it requires a little bit of retuning. And once we establish that, and it happens through the first quarter, I would say, various intense meetings, we plan this out. Then they are recalibrated and say, yeah, this is what we want to do. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it works out.
A lot of people are quick to take customers for the paycheck without understanding all the potential headaches that come from misaligned expectations. And sometimes, like you said, it doesn't work because the expectation and the goal and then the objective of how to get to the goal just doesn't align, doesn't make sense.
Well, right from the start, when we started the company, we don't take a big check right at the beginning. We have, most of our clients are all retained clients who pay us a monthly fee. And we're very flexible. Like if things don't work out, clients and us, we don't have to work together, because maybe we are not the right agency. I think that kind of transparency and openness has helped us.
Right.
We also have situations where, our staff members leave us and the clients have got really close to that staff member. So then they go and work with them for a few months and they realize, oh, it's not just that staff, it's the whole organization. The quote that I get, I tell people is that there's this kid who goes to the beach and he sees these waves, and he's like, yeah, I want to have these waves at home. So he says, he takes a bucket and takes the wave water and takes it home and there's no waves, So I tell them that it's the whole ocean that makes the waves.
The ecosystem.
It's the ecosystem.
And you can't replicate the ecosystem unless you have every ingredient, which is kind of where the sauce comes in.
Exactly.
Let me ask you about red flags. When a potential client comes or you approach a potential client because you want their business or they want your business, they want that relationship, what are some red flags that you see that you're like, no, if this person or this group of people showcase these types of actions, they are not a good fit for us? As a general rule of thumb, for people that do have service-based or professional-based businesses, many of them are quick to just be like, I'm going to take anybody. Like, let me just take whatever person comes my way, gives me the check. And I understand when you're getting started, you don't really have a choice. Beggars can't be choosers. But once you're in a position where you do have choices, what are some red flags that you look out for?
Yeah, it's my favorite question. You always have a choice. No matter how broke you are, you're starving, you're rent to pay, you always have a choice.
Yes.
You always have a choice. Having said that, in the industry globally, I am known as someone who will not say no I'm the broadest yes. Is that? So from that angle, I'll say there's only three things to which I say no to. One, if your business is illegal.
Right.
Yeah. So no matter how much money you've got, but if you're doing shipping for North Korea or buying arms for Russia or things like that, I can't help you. It
doesn't work.
Yeah, it's illegal. I can't help you. That's there might be lawyers who will take your case. And you've seen examples of that in UK courts and things like that. But I can't do it because if it is illegal, I cannot protect you. Listen. The second one is if a person is very vanity driven. I want to be on this. I want to win this award. I want to be the speaker of this thing. And if that is all that he's looking for, we can't help you because, it's like you go to a gym and say, I need a 6-pack tomorrow. It's like, dude, you need to work on some stuff. You need to watch your diet. You need to come here regularly. And then, it depends a lot on you as well. I'm your personal trainer, but I can't give you something tomorrow.
Yes.
I can recommend plastic surgery, but that will also won't happen tomorrow, So that is the second aspect. The third aspect is if I feel that this organization, no matter how successful, they're legit, everything is going to be harmful for my team. Then we have to pull back.
Dive into that one a little bit more. What do you mean by harmful?
I think I don't care if they're business. They could be tobacco, they could be alcohol, they could be legal marijuana, whatever it is. I don't really have an issue with that. But it is usually the people involved on the other side. So if we see that we know someone who's been watching, who's moving around various organizations, and now this person is the decision maker in this particular company, and we know from past experience how this person operates, how they've behaved with our staff, or with others that we've come to know of, we might just withdraw from that.
So protect your team first, in the sense of how these people interact with your team, how they talk to them. Do they add too much stress, pressure, all these kind of
stress and pressure are okay. That is part of our
day to day.
Stress is what drives us. You have to welcome stress if you want to be in this thing. Stress doesn't kill you. That's all rumors. But it's just basically the underline, I think, is the respect. If and let's go back to the gym example. If you have you're a personal trainer and you have a client who just abuses you every day, saying, where is it?
You'll be like, see ya.
You're like, yeah, why do you want to do that? It's like you're not listening to what is this thing. So, and you don't want to put your staff to that this thing. But stress is not an issue. Dangerous situations are not an issue. We do work with various geographies and things. We look forward to work like that. It's just sometimes there are people who we don't think are good to work with.
It makes sense. You mentioned, hey, a CEO wants to get pushed on a certain publication, or they want to speak to a certain interviewer. That means networking. That means relationship building, because you're that bridge between the outcome and the client. You kind of have that in between. Talk to me about harnessing and forging these networking connections and these relationships so that you can go to this Forbes, or you can go to this publication, you can go to this news outlet and be like, hey, there's this potential person, and they take you seriously. How do you establish that networking connection? How do you establish yourself as a source of legitimacy, whereby all these people are getting bombarded 24/7? How do you stand apart? How do people take you seriously? And how do you end up being in a situation whereby, just like you take care of your employees, good relationships, just like you take care of your customers, good relationships, you also have these third parties. They have their intentions, they have their ambitions, they have their own agendas, but you still seem to make it work. Talk to me about that, a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the key aspect of any PR or comms is a relationship, because that's just one step away from the actual goal, which is your power to persuade. Power to persuade, the right next step, the step before is relationship. And,
you need to have the right kind of relationship. So you need to have the right degree of closeness, so that whether it is with journalists, government, it needs to be kosher. That means we don't want a relationship where we are, our hands are dirty, or we are paying off people or things like that, because it's not sustainable. B, it is illegal, and you're putting a whole, things at risk. The second aspect is that whoever you're having this relationship or want to build this relationship with should see a value in having a relationship with you. What do you bring to the table? Yeah. And it differs for everybody. Sometimes, particular journalists are really stressed, and because they need things getting done. So they need someone to talk to and say, I'm working on this story. I need this. I need this thing. Do you know someone there? So you become a person who can give them access. And, no, we're not asking anything in return. We're just genuinely helping out. Once you establish that right degree, and there are others who would want some kind of indirect assistance on certain matters, which could be, for example, I have to set an example because you'll think assistance means, I say, no, it could be that they're having the beef with someone.
Yeah.
And they don't want to continue the beef. And it's professional rivalry, So you want to be the person who smooths it out, the lubricant, So yeah, you sort that out for them. And sometimes it just happens by chance. I mean, one of the journalists I admire the most, and I was trying to get a relationship with or an intro into. I used to write emails, send messages, nothing for 2 years. Then we were at this major global event, and I was just walking by, and I could sense that she was stressed, and I didn't want to go up and just say hi, right? So I just saw her face, and I walked up and I said, "Hey, can I help you? You look a little this thing." And she said, and we had no idea who we were, and we just said hi, bye a couple of times. And she said, "Yeah, I'm having this next panel, but I can't find one of these people, and they're somewhere here, and it's a live program. It needs to go live." So I said, "What's his name? What does he look like?"
Let me stand tall.
Yeah.
I can see over all.
Yeah, I used my height and right. No.
Yeah.
So I found out that his last talk was here. So I went into that hall, and it was empty. The lights were off, but I could hear like some mumbling sounds. So I just followed that, and there were 3 people sitting and talking after their panel because the conversations just went on. And I just went to him and I said, "Are you this guy?" And that guy thought he's about to be served or something, because I was like, "Is this, your official name?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Please come with me." I'm like, "What? What did I do?" So I dragged him and I took him straight to the side, and she was so, she's one of my, I would like to say, very close friend. And that's how we had a relationship. So now when I think something is good for her platform or something, she's established that credibility. And this happens when we have crisis stories as well. When a lot of the PR work, it's like the iceberg. You only see the tip. A lot of the work that we do, and we get paid much more, it is in crisis, where we have to control narrative, stop a story, delay a story, change the perception that a journalist is having about someone. And it can be long, drawn up. And that's where, bulk of the revenue and things come from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, you mentioned something funny. You said this idea of perceiving that she was stressed. Many people listening don't understand whether you're dealing with successful people, successful businesses. Many of them aren't looking for money. I get a lot of DMs. "Hey, Luke, what can I do for you?" It's the wrong approach. How is it that you perceive that a person needs something? What is the mindset behind that? Is it you actually care? Is it you actually are studying these individuals before you approach them to understand how they think, how they operate, what's important to them, as opposed to being like, "Hey, what can I do for you?" and leave it up to chance, as if people have the time of day to tell you their problems and to tell you their intricacies of life. A lot of people want to network with high net worth individuals, valuable people, companies, but they don't seem to get the foot in the door. Why?
One is, don't go to establish, I I want to be your friend. It's not going to work out. Yeah, and don't DM that either. It's creepy as hell. But I think you need to wait for an opportunity where if someone is under stress or needs help, they will reach a point where they'll reach out, and you just have to be there and be accessible. So a lot of the time is what I do in my professional life now is I just have to be there, and thankfully people look and say, oh, who's that tall guy with that messy beard? And that stays in their head. And if I'm, if they Google me or when they watch these series, they, oh, if a situation arises, they know, okay, let's give that guy a call. See, so it's important that you're seen, but not pushing. It is important that you're seen, and this is what I do. It's like if you need to get a cardiologist, I hope you don't have to, let's say.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. So what is the first thing you do? You don't look up this thing, right? You look at a good hospital, or you'll ask people, get a good reference, because it's very personal and, it's life or death kind of situation. So you need to make sure you get the right one. A lot of the things that have to do with reputation, or if you're in a PR media crisis, is that important. So you need to be seen and well referenced. How do you make out if somebody says, it's not. It's like, I see someone like we meet regularly, or I see you regularly on TV, and I've seen one side of you, right? If I see a side of you which is different, you're having a road rage, or you are, this thing, I know something is wrong, but I don't go and say, hey, what's wrong? I'll go and say, hey, man, how's it going? And then you'll try to recalibrate and say, yeah, man, I just got pissed off at this. Then you'll say, hey, what's the issue now? Do you want me to, or is there anything to? Then if you're in that situation, you will say, okay, I need to get out of this thing, or I need to sort that out. I don't want this in my life. That's where we come in and help. And thankfully, when you are dealing with an issue where there's, a lot of your business is crisis driven and things like that, a lot of this is based on your time. So I genuinely just help out people not thinking of the business side. Just help them out, because that is like the brochure I give away, or the first visit is free kind of thing, or first consultation in a lawyer's office. But that creates a network effect. Yeah. That creates an amplification effect.
I want to talk about this idea you mentioned, reputation. Reputation oftentimes is dictated by perception. Perception is dictated by persuasion. Persuasion being that gold dust that you mentioned of marketing. A lot of people run direct-to-consumer brands. They're just blasting ads on Facebook. They have brands. They don't understand the secret sauce of persuasion, of brand building, of dictating or establishing their narrative in the marketplace so people perceive them for what they want to be perceived as. Let's talk a little about marketing. Let's talk a little bit about this side that you operate under, persuasion, and being able to not control the narrative, but to be able to establish a narrative based off of how your clients want it to be perceived. Let's talk about persuasion, the value of it, the importance of it in marketing, and why people should study it and implement it.
So if you look at reputation, let's look at what is the good thing that a reputation can do for your business, not for you, just your business. If you're a and this is the real story, we are a direct-to-consumer fashion brand client, and they're doing great, but the founder told me, Jacob, we are in severe addiction. We have to put this much money into Instagram, into Facebook every month. Otherwise, our sales go down.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not sustainable. So I asked her, what is your reputation in the market? So this is fast fashion, right? Oh, the reputation is we deliver fast, and our fashion is really cut break, and the prices are great. So I said, yeah, that's the problem. That's not sustainable. I said, look, let's forget you guys and look at another brand, Patagonia. Why do people buy Patagonia? So it's not fair for me to give that example to her, because this is fast fashion, and Patagonia is something you will wear for the rest of your life, and they will repair it for you and things like that. But I told her that the key is you need to create a narrative that is sustainable, which
will become part of your story, your reputation, so that people keep coming to you, regardless of whether they see it that day on a promoted this thing. Said, oh, I'm going to plan my wardrobe according to, there's no shame in buying this fast fashion $8 dress, if that is how my wardrobe is going to be. I need to figure out a way that how this can be sustainable for the consumer who doesn't have this guilt conscious that, hey, this is not going to work out for the planet and, things like that. So these are all areas that she needs to work on. So I said, why don't you start by creating a club of your customers? Create one where, hey, you've been chosen out of these many consumers. These are our new things that we are working on from a design element. Would you like to be a part of this thing? And so as you engage this as your community, they don't see you as just another brand. They get a slice of ownership in the brand narrative. And then there's small things you can do when you send these, they got a special packaging. There's a note inside which is handwritten which says, hey, thanks for your part in making this product. So you are, pulling in the customer as a part of the story. So when they wear it, they're actually telling others that, hey, I played a role in making this shirt. It was my inputs and things like that. I got a letter to prove it. So the minute you create a narrative that is sustainable, that greatly helps your reputation. In digital media, a lot of your your readers, viewers are direct to customer, and they can all now look at their Excel sheet of their P&L and say how much they're spending on marketing.
Yes.
And they need to wean off it. When they wean off it, that's when the real takeoff starts, And it is because you see there are cycles. In the internet direct to home, you can be the pioneer in a new product category. There was a phase or a cycle for those flat card wallets.
Yes.
And now there's about 300 of them, all drop shipping from China and things like that. Then it will go to another cycle, which is shirts that don't wrinkle, or t-shirts that make you look this thing. And then there's like 300 of them doing that now, So you need to enter an area where you can quickly seize an IP, where it can't be easily this thing. And there's a story attached to it, so that even if you're $3 or $4 or $10 more, people still say, you know what, I don't want to be seen with anything else. I want to be seen with this one because it aligns with my story. There's a major ice cream brand that we represent, and what made them stand out is that they only have 5 ingredients. They don't put anything more, just 5 ingredients. And they also, like if there's an orange flavor in it, it comes from an orange in this particular farm in Japan. If there's chocolate, it comes from Belgium. If it's this thing, it comes from there. So people don't mind paying extra $3 or $5 per pint to their closest competitor. And so you have to make that differentiation, that sustainable narrative that will make you stand out.
Yes, I agree. You mentioned IP.
Yeah.
IP is what allows you to sell higher valuations. IP is what gives you higher lifetime value in customers. It gives you a higher return rate of customers and establishes loyalty. Talk to me about establishing IP. Talk to me about the importance and the value of crafting the IP, the intellectual property, to stand out from all the other people that are there is no difference really truly between a Uniqlo and an H&M and a Zara, maybe like small little differences, or a Cheyenne, but there's IP. Talk to me about IP. Talk to me about the persuasion attached to IP and how people can begin to craft narratives to establish their IP in a meaningful way that customers remember them. I once heard women and men think differently. Women, they think like a spaghetti bowl, right? They convolute their relationship at home with their relationship at business, with how they perceive products in person. Men, they think everything in blocks, right? So if they're thinking business, just business. If they're thinking home, it's just home. But many times the similarity is, if I tell you, okay, leading phone brand in the world, you'll probably say the same exact one as me, iPhone. If I tell you leading fast food chain in the world, you'll tell me most likely the same one, McDonald's, because they've owned that block, that square of mental real estate of IP when it comes to that product line. How does somebody establish that?
Yeah. It's very important somebody establishes that, because if you look at a marketplace, where the perfect competition, the perfect market happens is in the unorganized sector. Nobody has an IP. You walk into a physical marketplace, there's about 10 people selling the same thing. The price is the same. You might try to haggle a little bit and it's wafer thin. Anybody charges a little, they won't survive in that market, they go broke. And so there is not much of a price difference. Everybody tries to undercut, and maintain that thing. The companies that do really well will go like, stratosphere kind of growth, like you mentioned, iPhone or McDonald's, is that they're able to establish that IP that you cannot compete against. So our reasons might be different, why I buy it blindly. I have no thoughts. I even force myself to think of getting an Android phone. And I call it Android because I don't know whether to get a Samsung or a Pixel or these things. And I couldn't, because one is the familiarity, but the key aspect is also the trust. Yeah, I'm paying more, but I get a sense of safety that my content and my things that I do is safe. My data is safe. And I think that is, let's think it now from Apple's point of view. He said, does Apple have all the latest features? And does Apple's battery life this? And I don't know, some of the things that Android phones can do is really amazing. But they honed on that one area, trust, data, which nobody can compete against.
There's an iPhone billboard going around the world that says iPhone, it's privacy.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, it's a billboard.
Now they specify your health data, your data, iPhone is private, because that is something you can't compete against. Because even when it comes to things like the App Store, they have a higher degree of, curation.
Yeah, the scrutiny is a lot deeper.
Is a lot deeper. And people appreciate that. There's no call recording on iPhone. It's a basic thing. Every Android phone has deep, of call recording. And I asked, why can't we do that on this thing? But you can do that if you use your other apps and things like that. But iPhone doesn't do it. And that is an IP. Their IP is not that technology thing. Their IP is that, okay, this is what we value in a customer. Yeah. Similarly at McDonald's, wherever I go, they have a standard. They know at this price, you will get this. You don't have to think too much. It's just mental real estate. Just go, have this thing, you're filled, just move on. And your expectations are met because it's pretty standard. So a lot of times when people think of IP, they think that they have to go to like Shark Tank and present something and show a patent. That's not IP. IP, from our point of view in the kind of business that we do, is the feeling that you leave with the customer.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are a major airline, people don't book you because you're cheap. If you attract that kind of customers, they're the ones who are going to give you the maximum kind of issues.
Yes.
Because they're going to think of, why am I getting a free water? Why am I doing this? But if you just go a price point 5% higher, you get customers who are like, I don't care about any of that. I just need to get a nice, clean, on-time flight there. That's it. So your pricing determines what kind of people you attract.
Yes.
If you attract the wrong kind of customer base, it's going to leave a lot of chatter. You overpromise, underdeliver, things like that. What is the IP of an airline? They all have the same planes. They all fly to the same airports almost. And then they have these things. The IP is in the service and then the service expectations and then on-time performance. So all these things. So if you're a direct-to-brand customer and, looking at me, I don't use a lot of beauty products or things, but if you are targeting there, so what is it that people look for? People, look for the values. Okay, is this made ethically? Is there animal killing involved or testing or things like that involved? Is this made in proper conditions? Is it made in a nice factory which is clean and this thing? Has it gone through the right process? So when you do that, over time, customers tend to, and you have to make that thing of engaging the customer more. Let them know, okay, we put time and, all these things into it. That is what makes you different from a snake oil salesmen, because they the way they sell is that they sell by claiming all these things. Oh, this is going to make you this taller, shorter, thinner, fatter, whatever it is. And that's IP, right? Wow, nobody else can do this. But that's not going, because so many of them going around saying these things. And then you might have someone buy it once, but after that, it's gone. So sometimes people plan on that. They do this one-time wonder, say, oh, blast it on social media, blast it by influencers saying, oh, this is great, this is great. But the key to business is to have a sustainable long-term business that can be replicated in multiple markets, in different product categories, because you've established that brand. And that establishing that brand of trust is the greatest IP that you can have.
Yes, I agree. You mentioned something really important. You said, over time. People think that a marketing campaign is a one-hit wonder, that people are going to convert in the first interaction. But we know that establishing IP requires a process over time. Talk to me about the importance of pacing yourself. Talk to me about the importance of establishing persuasion over time, as opposed to, well, I just did this, it didn't work, nobody bought my stuff. What's the fallacy in that train of thought, and how are people supposed to rewire that to be thinking, like you said, over time to establish that narrative?
Yeah, this is very linked to people's philosophy of life in general. A lot of times it's because of the underdog stories or the movies and things that we watch. Those baseball stories where you're 2 strikes down and the last one he hits it, and everybody, like with one, everything is. Life doesn't happen like that. So life throws a lot of punches at you, and whether it is in business, personal life, and things like that. No one punch is going to kill you, but you need to survive it. So if you are starting a business or a product line, where I see common mistake is that they say, oh, this has to succeed and we need to be successful from day one, and we're going to put all our chips on red. It's like a roulette game. It's going to happen. Don't do that. I mean, a lot of people do that. All our marketing budget, you're going to put it on this campaign and this and that. You need to take it step by step. There is a process. Just follow the process. It'll work out. Do your market study. When you read about people's success, people say, oh, this guy did it. He got like that one product and became.
It wasn't that way.
It's an origin story that people write up, this thing. It's not. It's that you should have gone through a lot of things and done a lot of different things, and eventually something worked. Whether you take the story of Angry Birds, the company, or Nokia itself, or several companies, they've gone through like the brink of failure, and then even Twitter itself, and say, forget all this, let's work on something else. So you should have that stamina to sustain these blows and failures. And you should be able to wait for that right opportunity. And that sustaining power is more important than finding the right idea, the right product will come. But you need to have that sustainable story. And a lot of the times, it's also a bad part of our industry, is that we focus so much on the origin story, of that one thing, one product, and like overnight success. There's no such thing as overnight success. Whether you take Amazon or Facebook or all the big boys down, Netflix, they're not overnight success. Netflix had to go through so many, twists and turns and issues and all these things.
But people only see Netflix for what it is today. And they're like, I want to build the next Netflix. But are you willing to go through the 20 years of rejections and selling CDs and being told by Blockbuster that, stay down? Now, you mentioned something interesting. You talked about being able to take the blows and being able to take the hits. You started with 2000. So I knew it wasn't easy, right? From 2000 to a multi-8 figure, one of the fastest growing PR companies in the world, it doesn't just happen overnight. There's people listening that have $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. What's their next step? How do they position themselves through time to become successful? You said, part of it was circumstances. Don't plan ahead. I didn't know I was going to end up here. But I do believe that there are ingredients to success: consistency, perseverance, literacy, education, networking. What differentiated you from this guy sitting with $2,000 versus the other guy that sat with $2,000 that today didn't make it? In your opinion, what is the differentiating factor in the person that is sitting with a low budget of cash flow? Should they be thinking? How should they be operating?
See, to be honest, $2,000 is what we put in the company when we registered the company, or we christened the company. So for us, it didn't. I don't think we used that $2,000 because we didn't have an office. We were not drawing a salary, and because we are in a professional services firm, our expenses were basically coffee at Starbucks, or taking the taxi, or Google Workplace subscription and things like that. So you really don't, it doesn't matter whether it's $2,000, $20,000 or $200,000. The key element is to create, like you design a bot, input, output, and what is the difference. So we needed to create a system where, okay, we're going to bring in this much of business and we're going to only spend this much. And that creates X amount of capital that we can redeploy to maybe hire a staff, get an office, this thing. So we just went, okay, first client is going to be, it's going to pay us this much fees. And we're only going to spend this much. And the rest, over 3 months' time, will give us enough capital to do this. So once you work out that formula, regardless of whether it's 2,000 or 100,000 or whatever it is, you just have to work. Again, I'm just going back to the gym thing, calorie intake and outtake. If you want to build that up, you need to, whatever business you're doing, you have to say that, okay, this is the chessboard or the ammunition that I have, and let me try to create something that is sustainable, And you'll notice I'm using the word sustainable a lot. And this is because you need to be sustainable from a capital point of view. That is what gives you the stamina. If we had $20,000 or $200,000 and we got a nice office and hire a bunch of people, it's not sustainable because you are then expecting, which we don't know, are this business going to come in or not? It's better, like a lot of people call it the chicken and egg situation, and I tell them, don't get into the chicken and egg situation. Just, if chicken comes, take that. If egg comes, take that. You need to get input in first and then you focus on your output. So if all those people are watching now and they want to start something new, capital should not be what is holding you back. You need to do pen, paper and work out, okay, if I'm going to do this product, okay, and it's like, it costs you nothing. Just sit one afternoon and say, okay, if I want to do like a hair product, yeah, if I want to hit the market at this price where I think I can be this thing, then this is who I buy it from, this is the shipping cost, all that. Okay, you got all the product thing worked out. And then how do you build that sustainable brand? Okay, if I want to use an influencer, or if I want to be on this event or this thing, how much is it going to cost me? What are the ways I can reduce that cost? Can I do like a collaboration? Can I call in a favor? All these things. And you can work all this out in one sheet of paper and then try it out. Don't try it out with all the money you have. Try it out with like 1/10 of that. So let me do a pilot, and the purpose of this pilot is to make a $10 profit. Because once you know that the formula works, then it's just an issue of scaling. And then if somebody looks at your bank balance for 3 months and say, oh, you've been doing this several times. Okay, let me come and help you, scale. And at that point, you have to look at, okay, do I want to stick to this? Because it's high risk if you just stick to one model. What if I do skin products? What if I do hair products for a different segment? So you need to de-risk.
A lot of people want to do everything at once.
Yes.
They want to be the multi-million-dollar business overnight. And it doesn't work that way. I want to hear a success story. I want to hear one of those moments in your career as an entrepreneur where you're like, this was a good moment for me.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear a nightmare story, because I know you just went like this. I know you just have some crazy nightmare stories. So whatever you have without confidentiality you're able to share, talk to me about one of them.
Yes. I can share this with you now and probably help people who are listening. So Clinically, I was diagnosed with depression, and it was anxiety-driven depression. And one of the things that it made me do was that at the moment when I'm about to experience, life-changing, great news, I would get a bunch of thoughts that would really, So for the longest time, I think it helped me in the business because I wasn't going crazy saying, yeah, we won, So because I was like, okay, something horrible is going to happen because I won this, And I just kind of used it in the beginning years for my benefit. So I remember we won our major airline contract, multi-country, this would set us apart, this thing. And that was huge because we had to go for a pitch, and that pitch, the last final, for the huge market that it was in Mumbai. And we were in the 5th floor of this historic building. That's where our office was. And for some reason that day, the south of Mumbai had a big power outage. And I made the entire client team walk up 5 stairs. And then the office had backup power, but it would go on and off. And the presentation would go off and on, off and on. I remember telling my colleague that if we win this, we are destined, it was destined that we win this, or it's some miracle, this thing. But we won it, and we still have that client, and it's huge. And now with so many people, and we have different product verticals and things like that, I just get the highlights, But I try to go with my team to pitch and things. If you don't win, then I try to understand from the client side what was the feedback, where we made a mistake and things. So it is like that one page I told you, right? Realize where the mistakes happened and then try to redo it better and get it better. So it has become a little more thing there. I would say in the professional arena, when things really go bad, there have been 2-3 instances. We are closely aligned with our clients. So we know the client hasn't done anything wrong. But then people decide to go after them based on for other motives and things. So we feel that for the client. And we fight it hard back. Sometimes we take it a bit personally than we should. So those kind of scenarios are not great. When we lose a client who's been with us for a very long time, when I lose colleagues who've been with me for a very long time, those are for professional and personal reasons. My co-founder was much younger to me. She's not actively involved in the business right now because she had to step back because she got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So there are things that are outside of business that has impacted us. And then it makes you look back and look at all the silly fights and arguments you had. And it's like, now when we look back, why waste all that good time for, these things? So there are like, it's never like, okay, this is the good period and this is the bad period. These things keep happening.
The ebbs and flows.
Yeah. The situations are only what you make of it. And I tell this to my clients as well, and nothing is going to kill you or nothing is going to make you super this thing, that take-off stage. It happens gradually. Like if you're on YouTube or things, it's like you make videos, and then suddenly it starts to get, this thing. So you just have to maintain that rhythm, do the things according to a process, and put in place some checks and balances, and then things will take off. Bad things will happen. Even if you do all the de-risking you can, something will happen. The same way, good things will happen. So you don't just, whatever is in your powers right now, just do the best of it. Don't overthink it. Just whatever is in your power to do, and whatever is not in your power, just forget about it.
You mentioned you were going back to school to get your master's degree.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. A lot of people looking at that would be like, this guy's running a super successful company. Why is he going to waste time going and getting more education or formal education or positioning himself to learn new information when he's already doing well? Why doesn't he spend more time focused on the business? Talk to me about what you're going back to school for, why, what's the psychology behind going back to school, and why you think it's a net positive versus investing those additional hours into the business.
Yeah. I didn't have a plan that I need to do this, but with like a formal education. So I went more in areas where it will benefit my day-to-day business. So I'm doing 2 programs. One is a program which is actually a master's degree. It's in business psychology. And it's an Australian university called Newcastle, but they have a campus here in Singapore. So I learned. And I wanted to learn business psychology because a lot of what we do is business psychology. It's either driven by individuals or a group think of an organization or a particular sector. So understanding that is very important. Also, I engage with a lot of universities because it gives me a chance to spot young talent very early. So I've been recruiting a lot of people from the universities that I go to. The other program I'm doing is a program called OPM, Owner President Management, which is at Harvard. And I think they have 2 or 3 of these every year, and it takes about 18 to 24 months to finish it. I did that course for 2 reasons. One is we are expanding in the US, and I thought this would give me inroads into understanding how business is done or is changing in the US. It is 180 people in my cohort, and a lot of them are from the US. So it gives me a lot of time to spend with them and understand how business is done in the US. But the truly transformational part of that course was the way they teach it. They do it according to business case studies, expose you to different elements of business. And they also do a lot of time in analyzing your mental makeup and your challenges that you face. A lot of one-on-one time with the professors and counselors and things. So that has been truly transformational. I think a lot of entrepreneurs out there, we need to have a deep dive into how business affects our mental state. No, I don't see mental state as, are you happy? Because entrepreneurship does have an impact on your mental life. Yeah. And I have experienced this, through ups and downs and things. And a lot of times we don't diagnose it. So we think that this is just, a massive euphoria or massive down or whatever it is. And then it comes out in the way of our temper or how we use substances to self-medicate and things like that. So it's very important that we analyze, like, okay, what is it that we're going through? Like if you were, again, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much of gym. Maybe I should spend some time. But it's like in a gym, right? Like what are you doing and how that intake of food or whatever is affecting your thing. And you need to work on your mental brain like that. And education changes the way that you think, and how you address things. And a lot of that, you can get it for free on YouTube or watching channels like yours, and you learn a lot. Sometimes you need to take it where you need a community. So when you go to a university, it opens up a lot of journals which are behind paywalls. You have access to great professors, who can spend time with you and explain, like, hey, that thing that you're facing right now, there are like 200 case studies of it. I can give you a real life story. When I was in Boston, I asked one of the professors, see, I'm having this issue where a lot of the larger global firms, seeing our success, are poaching on our staff. I cannot match their salaries, or they could be doing this for short term just to inflict pain on me. What should I do? So this professor, Boris, he said, you know what, I'm going to send you something, you have a read. And the next day he sent me this huge case study. And he said, what are the areas to focus on to prevent this? What you can offer your team, which is beyond financial, And it was eye-opening. And these solutions are out there.
Yes.
It's either there, which is in a university system, in a case study and all that behind a paywall, or it's just waiting for some nice guy to make like a nice explainer YouTube video. Between these, all the solutions are there.
Yes.
So the more you explore, the more you can get. get done.
I always tell people, the more you know, the more you know.
Yeah. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Yeah. So you have to.
And now you know.
Now you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Wrapping up, I want to ask you, what is your role nowadays as a CEO? And it's no longer you hustling, doing what you, of course, you're working hard, but it's no longer what you used to do. You're putting people in positions. You're more so utilizing your mental power to organize things and to structure things. What does a CEO of a 220 person company in 20 countries, not just in one office, what is your day to day? And yeah, what is your formula or strategy to scale a team?
I'd look at it in 3 stages. This is obviously something I've been thinking about. So for me, the top area is that my number one goal is for the moonshots. I have to be the spearhead for all the markets that seem impossible for an Asian agency to get into. So US, Australia, we're already there. So I'm spearheading those areas. Second thing is I want to nurture young staff. So I need to spend more time. I took a break from that for the last few years, and I don't think that has been helpful for the firm. So I want to spend more time with the young people in my company and inject the same moonshot kind of thinking, that punching above our weight, taking risks, it's okay to fail, all those things back into the thing to rediscover those forever people right from the ground up. The third stage is that I need to show my example to my team, to tell them that, both the good sides and the bad sides, show my own vulnerability so that they understand that every day is not going to be perfect. You are going to face these issues. You're going to have pain. You're going to have all these things. Then you'll ask, what is all this for? What is the end game? What is the end role? Focus on, try to tell them, focus on the journey, take it into an aspect where, yes, jogging every day is painful, but the outcome is that you feel good after that jog and this thing. So we have to make a way that our work also seems like that. It's not just the money that we'll be there. We might acquire more companies. We might go for IPO. I might be there, might not be there, whatever it is. How do we take the movement forward as a tribe and have that sense of fellowship?
It's the establishing of culture.
Yeah. And again, a lot of people say culture, if you do this, if you do that. Culture is again not an overnight thing. You can't do culture by putting up motivational posters or having tug-of-war competitions and things like that. Same with DEI, diversity and things. Interestingly, there is a study, again, which I read, and it's actually, I'll send you the link. You should have a look. Maybe you can share it with this thing. If you do things like diversity, it is going to do wonders for your business. But if you do diversity for the sake of diversity, it's going to have a negative impact, And a lot of times, this is what we see happening. Everybody's in that FOMO thing, we have to be diverse. So let's do this. And they pick the low-hanging fruit.
They don't even understand what diversity means.
No.
They think diversity is, let me get one Indian guy, one black guy, one red-haired girl, and one blonde guy from New York. But that's not diversity. Diversity implies so much more, because the more diversity you are,
background.
Yes.
Diversity of somebody's personal history. It's a very complex thing. We can't even categorize what is diversity. But a lot of people take advantage of it. They think, okay, I'm going to play the diversity card to get ahead or do this. And that is really bad for a business. And there's a case study on it. I'll send it to you. You can have a look at it.
2 more questions. The first one is, tell me the biggest secret sauce nugget that you've learned about persuasion. What is this? If you could summarize it all and be like, I've all my years of understanding this skill, I've extrapolated this one principle that if you implement it in your business, you'll move forward.
Okay, there's 2 parts to it. One is about persuasion, and the second part is about business. On the persuasion side, you need to get to a relationship status where
If I were to ask you something, I would know that the answer is going to be yes. If I don't know the answer is yes, I will not ask you that. So you need to get to a relationship status where if I'm going to ask someone, I know that the answer is going to be yes. So similarly, if, the flip side of that relationship is that if you were to ask me something, my answer will be yes, because you know that Jacob will say yes. And you also know I shouldn't ask something that will be painful for Jacob to say yes, because we have that relationship. So you need to get to that state, whoever it is with. Yeah. The second element is, how do you do this in business, internally and externally? Internally, we need to focus on that sense of camaraderie. There are people in my company who, when we were first starting, we used to share hotel rooms, which we can't do now because of, but we used to share it because we said it's our company, we need to save money. I remember going to Hong Kong one time, we were in Wan Chai, it's a tall, narrow building, and the lift elevator opened and they said, this is your room. And I looked at the lift elevator, and I said, the elevator is actually bigger than the room. And there's no, this thing. So these kind of things that really bonded us, it kind of starts to as the company grows. So it's very important that we revisit these thoughts and create more experiences where there is more sense of camaraderie, because that is what is going to help us punch above. Otherwise, companies become like automated, programs, and people are seen just as a resource. I think we need to change that.
Yes. Final question. Building Red Hill, what is the number one, I call them data sets. Data sets are downloads from the universe that they just download as a data set, like a software program. What is the number one data set that you've learned building this company?
People. Just have people. You don't have to be a huge amount of people, but just have a group of people who decide, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Come what may, whatever it is, we're going to make it happen. Both for our own growth, but also for our clients. So I'll give you an example. There was a major pitch for an airline in Japan. Me and my co-founder, Sureka, we landed up there. We didn't even look at the weather. It was cold in Japan. We had never been outside of Southeast Asia as a business. And it was, we were determined, we're going to do our best foot forward. And there's hundreds of issues that came up. We didn't have a Japanese company registered properly. We didn't have a company bank account, all these things. But, we couldn't solve all that. Just focus on getting the job done, doing a good work that is given to us, and everything else will be sorted. So I think any professional services firm, everybody else can buy everything you have. You can buy Teams, or you can buy Excel or Slack and all the others. That's not going to make you different. The key thing is the people that you have. And you shouldn't have the same people. Yes, you got to have the same people. It's like running a football team. Some players are good for a certain period. Then after that, you should encourage more and more young people to come and keep your note. What happens in a lot of firms is that they have this football player and he's great, but he should retire. He should give space for the new people to come up. He can be assistant general manager or something, but the players have to be young and dynamic. So I think that people matrix is very important. I think that's the secret sauce, especially for a professional services firm. You need to have that the right kind of people.
You gave me a lot of examples with fitness and stuff today. So next time I see you for a part 2, I'm going to see you with a beach body.
I think that'll be crime against humanity to see me in a beach body. But as long as I'm healthy and I can live a bit, it's okay.
Mr. Jacob, thank you so much, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Great time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of Money Talks, an exclusive conversation with some of the most brilliant minds in business, entrepreneurship, and finance. Hopefully you guys extrapolated some data sets just as much as I did, and I'll see you guys on the next one.